To bring Sally Ann back up, so thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. I'm going to just do a brief introduction if you want to have them come up and set up. Yep. Sure. Okay. Dr. Anthony and Sabrina Caliendo have the Practice Well chiropractor. Who's in charge of your health? The 100-year lifestyle is what he will be discussing this evening. A little bit about Dr. Caliendo. He has a private practice since 1986 and has also taught doctors and students internationally for over 15 years. He has personally delivered 140,000 personal wellness visits to people from over 40 different countries over the last 29 years. Dr. Anthony has been studying natural healing since 1982. Yay! His experience and expertise has given him the opportunity to present several large conferences concerning the topics of wellness and the reorganizational healing model of healthcare. He serves as second vice president on the board of directors for the prestigious International Association for Reorganizational Healing Practice. In 2007, he married Dr. Sabrina Caliendo, which we had the pleasure of meeting last Friday, of Great Britain, when she joined him as his partner, and that was a beautiful accent that she had. Together, they co-founded Practice Wellbeing Chiropractic, PC, and run one of the oldest centers in the world, Network Spinal Analysis and somato-respiratory integration, the core clinical approaches behind Practice Wellbeing that have transformed tens of thousands of lives, helping people realize new possibilities by putting their health and well-being into their own hands, literally. And Dr. Anthony and Sabrina have been serving the Lindenhurst, New York community for the last 25 years. Their internationally recognized leading natural health care professionals are dedicating to help you achieve your wellness objectives, whether you are in physical pain, have chronic illness, are overly stressed, or simply want more growth or self-empowerment. Dr. Anthony and Sabrina are committed to bringing you better health and a better way of life by teaching you true principles of sustainable lifestyle, of being quick, easy, without drugs, surgery, cracking, or popping. Live life the way you were meant to live. Free will, live well, and be well. Dr. Anthony Caliendo.
Can everyone hear me without this? We're going to have to use that.
Do you want some water?
Okay. That's my bottle there. How about that? You mean you're going to ask an Italian to stand in one place? Is this what you're telling me? Maybe I could do that. Okay, sure. Well, thanks for coming out, everybody. I'm Dr. Anthony Caliendo. I'm in my 29th year, not my 25th. I know that's off the website. I've had the privilege of being in the natural health care field for all these years. Actually, it's maybe 33 years now, and have the opportunity to help people from all over the world. I've worked on people from over 40 different countries, almost 200,000 people at this point through natural health care. And it's a blessing and it's a gift, helping people with things that, you know, they were told they would need drugs, they would need surgery when they had no other help anywhere else, and we were able to really point them in the right direction. So whenever I'm teaching, whether it's to students, doctors, or an open thing like this, I always ask people the first question: what's the most important thing in your life? What would you say is the biggest asset you have?
Jesus Christ.
Your health. Jesus Christ, right. That's a good point. It is God. It's God, then health.
You're absolutely right.
First, but that's a good one. No one's ever said that. But health, when you ask a pregnant woman, what do you want to have, a boy or a girl? What do they say? I don't care as long as it's healthy, right? So your health is your most important asset. And if that's your most important asset, who needs to be in charge of your health? What do you think? Absolutely, we need to be in charge of our health, because if we're not in charge of our health, that means someone else is, right? And I'd like to tell a little story. I was probably a teenager, I was in my teens, and my dad was maybe in his 40s. And my dad was an active guy. He was an athlete. He was a business owner, a successful business owner, and he was just an active, fun guy at parties and all that. And his whole life, I mean, I remember he would have aches and pains, but nothing really bad. One day, like I said, I was maybe 14 years old. He had an epileptic seizure. So what do you think? What do you think we did? We went to the doctors, and what did the doctor do? Put him on Dilantin. Very good. The doctor prescribed the medication, and Dilantin was the first medication, but the Dilantin, after 4 months, was destroying his liver. So then he went on to phenobarbital. Now, it's a barbiturate, and it's a central nervous system suppressant. And now, he was what they considered a medical success story because he didn't have any more seizures. And he was taking this medication for, say, maybe 3 years. And he never liked it, because if you knew him, you would see what it was doing to him. Now, here's a man who was in his 40s at this point, and he was getting duller and duller. He was losing that sharpness, and he never liked it. So one day he ran out of medication, and he decided not to tell anyone. Because he's figuring, I've been taking this medication for 3 years, I haven't had a seizure, maybe I'm cured of this. So he stopped taking it. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3, 4 weeks go by, and what do you think happened? He had another seizure. So now, I'll never forget, we all jump in the car and we go to Columbia Presbyterian, one of the best hospitals around, to one of the best neurologists. And I was asking him, saying, what happened here? He said, what happened was he stopped taking the medication. And I said, well, what's the plan now? What are you going to do? Because I was at that point where you're starting to really question and think about things. And he said, well, we're going to put him on more medication. But I said, but we did that already. We did that for 3 years. And he got this, he got the seizures again. He says, yeah, but that's what we do. He said, well, what's causing the seizures? He said, we don't really know. He said, look, what we do is we diagnose a problem, and then we treat it. And I said, well, what do you mean? I said, so if someone has high blood pressure, you're basically giving them high blood pressure medication to lower the blood pressure. He said, yes. Diabetes, the same thing. You name it, the same thing. I said, yeah, but what's the cause? He says, I don't know. I said, well, who would know? He said, look, that's not up to us. That's up to the patient. Now think about that. And that was the moment, it was at that moment where they say there's the most important days in your life, the day you were born and the day you know why you were born. It's like, the patient. How many people I knew watching my father diligently take all his medication, you're going to see him. He just did what he was told. He went for all his doctor's appointments, right? And now, the cause of it was up to him. So literally, our health is up to us. And what happened with him was he kept taking the medication, and he was still considered a medical success story. More drugs led to more drugs, small surgical procedures, dialysis, and he died at 64. And the thing is, watching all these people we knew, how many people taking medications, just trusting that, okay, this is leading towards something, maybe getting better and healing, but that's not the case. So when I ask people what's their most important asset, they always say it's their health, and they always say they need to be in charge. Because if you're not, someone else is. But then I ask people, what is health? What do you think? If I ask people, it doesn't matter where they live, what is health? Health is what? When you feel good, or when you look good. So people think, culturally, that you're healthy when you look good or feel good. And I'm here to tell you that if you're in charge of your biggest asset, which is your health, and if you're basing your health on how you look or how you feel solely, you're in line for the top 3 killers in the United States today. The top 3 killers are the top 3 killers because People are basing their health on how they look or how they feel.
Makeup.
Who's on the cover of Men's Health Journal? This guy who's tremendously built, or Women's Health Journal. You know, I get Newsday, I read Newsday all the time, and every now and then they come out with the body, mind, and soul health issue, and it's loaded with, what do you think's in there? Liposuction, dental implants. I'm not saying any of these things are terrible, but this is not health. Botox, cosmetic surgery. Once I found an article on yoga. I almost died. I said one time there was something that I thought was of value. But the top 3 killers are the top 3 killers for that reason. Anybody know what number 3 is? Number 3 is heart disease. And some of you may know people who have heart disease, who've had heart disease, who've died of heart disease. Heart disease, the interesting thing, it's 550,000 people a year, but the interesting thing is 80% of the time, their first symptom of a heart problem is a heart attack. And half those people die. We had an uncle, that's my sister over there, Teresa, the one on the left. We're a real Italian family, so my father had, his sister lived right next door with her family. There were 4 of them, 3 of us, and we shared a backyard. So we grew up one big mess, basically in each other's house. And it was like you had 4 parents, really. And never forget, my uncle, who was my aunt's husband, he was 55 years old, and he looked good. I mean, he used to do a lot of work around the yard. The work they were in was building supplies. Imagine an Italian family in the building supply business. Unheard of. But he was in the building supplies, and he would use his body. Thank you. I'll be here all weekend. But one day, he had a heart attack, and he literally died. Maybe a week after that. Never saw it coming. He was 55 years old. I'm 50. I'll be 54 next month. And it affected the whole family. And the truth is, he was a ticking time bomb our whole childhood, because I was in my early 20s. And it takes 10, 12 years of this. It doesn't just happen. No wonder it's number 3, because you don't feel it. What do you think number 2 is? Number 2 is cancer. 700,000 people a year. Can you have stage 4 cancer and not know it?
Yes.
You better believe it. You better, no, 700,000 people die a year from cancer, but you can have stage 4 cancer and not know it.
I had stage 3
And you don't know. You don't know these things, because if people knew these things, they're blind spots. You know, they would make changes. If I'm driving here and there's a blind spot, I'll change lanes. I didn't see the car, but the minute I see the car, I avoid I avoid these things, right? Yeah, stage 4. We had a woman come in the office in this last summer. She was 55 years old. I mean, to look at, beautiful, not heavy, thin, wonderful, successful in business. She went to the doctor for a wellness checkup. Wellness checkup meaning there weren't any symptoms. She felt good, and they found stage 3 into 4 lung cancer. And they told her to go home. They said there's no treatment. So I'm not here to depress you, but I'm here to make a point that covering symptoms, what are we taught to do? When we go to a doctor for a headache, what do they do? What are we told to do? Take something. So there's the headache. You just covered it up. Is that getting healthier or sicker?
Not
Is it going up or down? It's going down. More drugs, early surgery, early death. And that's how it goes. See, we go from 100%, we go down to 50 or 60%, 50% before we feel our first symptom. So you have 50% or 60% damage before you feel a symptom. And that's why I always have these charts, these symptom survey charts, because it's to get people thinking. Because people are in denial too. I'm okay, I'm good, I'm good. Well, let's see. The last couple of months, have you had any of these things even once? Because symptoms are not by chance. Never to be ignored. Never ever to be ignored. And that's the cross, right? The avoiding the cross. People don't want to look at the symptom or the suffering, right? And at the same time, we shouldn't be covering it. right? So you don't feel the first symptom till you're 50% or less. That means if you feel a symptom, you're functioning at 50% or less in your body. And then who takes the smoke alarm out of the, who takes the battery out of the smoke alarm? Who does this? Nobody does, unless you're cooking, right? I thought that's what you were gonna say. Smoke alarm goes off, what does that mean? That means what? That means there's smoke somewhere, which means there's fire somewhere, which means something started it. There's a cause. Always a cause. That's what's important. And we were told that depends on us. Number one cause of death in the country. I'll give you a hint. It's not accidents, it's not suicide, it's not even a health problem. I'm going to tell you.
Stress.
No. Medical care and prescription drug reaction.
Wow.
1 million people a year.
Wow. They don't tell you that.
Journal of American Medical Association.
They don't tell you that on TV.
Journal of Medical, and now then they went further. So medical care, so basically covering your symptoms is the number one cause of death. Not to be taken lightly. And then they did more studies with this. They found out why that is. And the reason is because guess what? People lost control of their health. No one's in charge of their health anymore. We're not in charge of our health. If we're not in charge of our health, who do you think's in charge of our health? What do you think? You're close. Pharmaceutical company, and I'm not a conspiracy guy, and I'm not going, I'm not about that. But the truth is, the pharmaceutical companies are in charge of our health because they're telling the doctors what to prescribe.
Right.
Am I really like
Right.
crazy here? Is everybody shaking their? It's not even. It's known now.
I'm with you, I'm in agreement.
No, but everybody knows. It was on the front page of Newsday all last year. A doctor from Stony Brook came clean. He said they were taking notes on how well he's doing, how much he's prescribing. He was a little low, he was a little high. If I was a medical doctor too, and you were all MDs, I'd be getting $15,000 for this lecture to push the different drugs. And I have to make a point. I'm not here to put down doctors because nobody goes to medical school to hurt people. Come on. Nobody does that.
They put down doctors all the time. Doctors work.
It's not, they kill themselves. It's a flawed principle. It doesn't work. Johns Hopkins did a study, 39 countries, the top 39 countries in the world regarding health. What number do you think we were? We were 39th. We're the sickest country in the world. We spend the most money in healthcare than any other country by far. The next 18 countries spend what we spend. $3 trillion a year on healthcare. We have the best doctors, the best technology, the best hospitals. Well, why is this? There's something really wrong here. Infant mortality, bad. So something's happening. There's something wrong. That's why we do this. That's why we come out and this is our passion, this is our mission. Because no one knows it.
Right.
Amen.
And they're sleepwalking. It's like that movie, The Sixth Sense. They're dead and they don't know it. Remember the little boy? He said they're walking around dead and they don't know they're dead. People don't know they're sick. Right? So, guess what the second thing is? The pharmaceutical companies, number one, the insurance companies are number two, because two people could go into a hospital, one have insurance and one not. Do they get the same treatment? No way. The one with no insurance, they might not get that MRI that's needed because they know they might not get paid. It's unfortunate, and but this is the reality. This is the reality. So we have to take control of our health, and it starts with knowledge, right? My people will perish for lack of. Right, that's how it goes. So then we have to ask the question: if health isn't how you feel, how you look, then what is it? What is health? I'm going to tell you, Dolan's Medical Dictionary is on every doctor's shelf in just about the world. It is the Bible. Dolan's Medical Dictionary states, health is optimal functioning. That's the key word to remember. Optimal functioning of the body, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, not merely the absence of disease. So health is optimal functioning, not merely the absence of disease, meaning not merely looking good or feeling good. So that brings us to what's in charge of the functioning of the body. Any ideas? I'll give you a hint.
Nervous system, brain.
Okay, so I don't know if they can see. Can you guys see this? Can you guys can't see it. So this is like Mission Impossible. I don't think I can get it so everyone can see. Maybe, okay. I just want to do a time check. I see is it 8:47?
That's okay.
Okay, good. So what do you think? What's in charge of the body? I'll give you a hint. God put an organ in our head
Brain.
in charge of every other organ in the body.
Brain.
The brain. The brain's the most magnificent thing in the universe. They'll never understand the brain. They will never. There's more electrical activity in your brain than every cell phone on the planet at the same time. Each one of our brains. Magnificent.
I'm sorry.
There's more electrical activity going on in your brain right now than all the cell phones on the planet. All the cell phones.
One brain.
One brain.
Wow.
We only tap into 3%.
Absolutely. And we're not using a lot of it, and we get into that too. And it even ties into what a beautiful DVD. That was unbelievable. That Craving, what was it called?
Craving.
Right. That was great. But the brain, you're 15 days old after conception, and the first thing made is your brain. And the spinal cord, which is called a notochord at that time. Brain and spinal cord, and then come the little nerves out. And then from that, every cell of your body is made. It's like a tree, the root, the trunk, the branches, and the leaves, and the fruit. It comes from the middle and out. And it's your lifeline from that moment till the day you die. Is your brain and your spinal cord. If you guys can see this, am I annoying? So now you've got the brain, has all this activity, all this energy, all this information, and it sends that information down the spinal cord through the spine. See, the spine is like 24 donuts stacked on top of one another with a cable running through. That cable running through is your spinal cord. So that brain is sending this energy, life energy. It's actually called an intelligence. Science calls it innate intelligence because it's smart. Body's smart. Down through the spine and out the nerves, because you have nerves coming off at every level. These yellow things, right? So they come down from the brain, through the spinal cord, and out the nerves to every cell in the body. 70 trillion cells. You guys had dinner tonight? Your body's digesting the food you ate without you even thinking about it for one reason. That brain is telling your digestive tract what to do. Absolutely incredible. Now, here's the thing. If I take scissors and I cut that nerve going to the heart, what do you think happens to the heart?
God.
Immediately. To the colon, to the lungs, to the liver, same thing. It dies immediately. That's a law. That's a law of science. It's just the way it is.
The brain is the control center of the body.
The brain's control center.
That's obvious, but brain is the control center of the body. If you had built a machine, well, just getting back to the body, without the control center there, you lose contact with everything and just die.
We can go home. That's it. She said it beautifully. That's it. It is the control. It's a master computer. But now, what if we didn't cut the nerve going to the heart? What if we scale it back? And what if we squeeze that nerve going to the heart? Now, what if you have 100? Well, what do you want? What percentage of life force do you want coming through your spine from the brain to your tissues? What percentage? 100. What if you squeeze off 30%? And now you have 70% going to the heart. Is the heart sicker or healthier?
Sick.
Okay. Do you think you necessarily feel that?
No.
You don't. Not yet. You don't necessarily feel that.
It's like a tower.
So now, that brings us to the reason why we always look toward the spine. There's really two main functions with the spine. It holds us up, it's support, but it's also protection. You see, the most vulnerable tissue in your body is your brain, your spinal cord, and these little nerves. So it needs to be protected. You literally have like a suit of armor on around you. You have a skull, and then you have this, what's called the spine, protecting your spinal cord, right? Because it's very vulnerable. So now when you look at this spine, we look at three main areas. We look at the first vertebra, the first two vertebrae, very important. We look at the spine itself, and we look in between the vertebrae. And when you look at a spine like this, right, there's no laws being broken, right? It's supported, right? It's protected. Communication is going from the brain down and out. You think that's a healthy person?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. The minute you do this, what do you think happens now?
You're choking off the spine,
Well,
damaging it.
if you put your finger right in there where that nerve comes out, don't do it, don't do it. And you twist that vertebra, it's gonna squeeze, pinch. It's like a dimmer switch. So now you've got this going on, you've got a dimmer switch going to this area now. Now it's literally cutting off life. See, I gotta make this point. You know, we always talk about the nervous system, how important the nerves are, and the brain, and the spinal cord. The truth is, living things have something that dead things don't have. If I cut my arm, you can watch it. It'll bleed, it'll clot, it'll scab, and it'll heal. If you cut the arm of a dead guy, what's going to happen?
It turns more black.
Nothing. Or a steak, nothing happens. If you put a plant in a dark room with a little bit of light in the corner, where does the plant, what does it do? It bends. If you put a dead plant in the room, what does it do? It does nothing. So living things are smart, right? It's called life force, it's power. What is it? Ephesians 3:20. Right? God has the ability to do, right? Do you know this one? Has the ability to do abundantly, excessively, all that we ask, above all that we ask and think. But it's only according to the power, according to His power that works within you.
Wow.
We're not talking about nerves. You have all the wires you want. These lights don't work without electricity.
Right.
That's the power. We're talking about God's power here, going down and out to every part of the body. Life force, life energy, intelligence beyond belief. A tree in the desert hasn't rained in 6 months and there's a river over there. Which way are those roots going?
Yeah.
Everything in our life, everything we do, that's why you can't check out. You know, you can't avoid the cross. You can't avoid anything. Because we're being guided and directed. As long as we're, what? Connected. God's power coming through. So now, when we look at the spine from the side, it shouldn't be straight. The spine should have a curve in the neck, a curve in the 3 curves like this. Right? That's the way it should be because it adds even more support with the curves. But how about this? Has anyone seen this walking around?
Looking down.
People think it's when you get old. Well, it's old age. Don't believe it. It's osteoporosis. Don't believe it. Because they're kids. You look around at teenagers.
Yeah.
They're walking around like, they call it text neck now. The head coming forward this way, but now watch this though. Look at the back of my wrist, right? Now let's make believe this is my head going like this, right? When I go like this, what happens to the skin on the back of my wrist? It stretches. What do you think's happening to the spinal cord when the head's forward? It's stretching like a piece of taffy gets thin. What do you think's happening to the nerves in here? I'll tell you, they're getting crushed. And you might not feel it. It's a little, every now and then. These nerves are getting crushed. Now here's the thing. You can massage it, you can inject it, you could put lotion on it, you could take a medication for it, you can ice it, you could do whatever you want to that. Unless you remove that destruction, that disconnection, it can't get better. You know, even to the point where the head forward like this, the nerves going to the heart and lungs are being crushed. I don't care if you exercise every day and twice on Sunday. I don't care who you are. There was a marathon run. I think his name was Jim Fix. Someone. He was the poster boy for long distance running. The guy was maybe in his 50s. He died. He died of a heart attack because if the nerves, if life force, power going to the heart and lungs is diminished, does it matter how much you exercise? Can you possibly be healthy 100%?
How would you fix that?
You can't be healthy. This is what we do. This is what I'm going to talk about in a minute.
Is it just adjustments that would help it?
You jump in the gun.
Chiropractor.
You jump in the gun. It's more than that.
That's why the government should subsidize chiropractic.
It's more than that. And that's why I'm here Because it's not about cracking the spine.
Right.
It's not about pushing things back into place. It's not what it's about. But let me just finish this, because if I get thrown off, we'll be here till midnight. You guys ready to be here till midnight? So the same thing goes for, and I would be remiss if I wouldn't be doing my duties as a doctor if I didn't tell you this. I know the work that Sally Ann, I went on your website, unbelievable information. I mean, cutting edge information. Right there. I mean, all of it. Everything that this woman's saying on this video, it's all, like, from what I could see so far, really the best conversation. In fact, we had a conversation when we were here at the last dinner with this nice lady right here. The things you were telling us, me and my wife, we looked at each other and said, she knows a lot of stuff. So, I mean, I know what's happening, but the truth is, if your digestive tract is not able to function 100% because the power source is diminished, it doesn't matter what you eat. You could go, we shop at Whole Foods, you could buy the best food, the best meats, the best supplements, organic and everything else. The body can't use it. It's like a BMW factory. BMW's a nice car, they tell me. And you've got all the parts, all these great parts, and they go into the factory. That's like your body's the factory. You have all this great food you put in there. But if you don't have order or intelligence in that factory, are you going to make a good car? Can't happen. For a carrot to turn into an eyeball, for a steak to turn into skin, this is a miracle. It's like going to a doctor, get a bowl full of fruits and vegetables and say, Doc, here you go, I need a new liver. What can you do for me? The intelligence inside your body is the best doctor in the world. You have everything you'll ever need. That's the good news here. You don't need anything. It's all inside. The best drugstore in the world is inside your body with no side effects. Absolutely. Yeah, so that's what we have to take care of. Now here's the thing. Where does this come from? Why do people get these blockages in their spine? Subluxations is the word. It's not a dislocation. It's a vertebra that's just misaligned. But when do you think, now a misaligned vertebra is like a dimmer switch, but when do you think is the first time someone may get one of these? You know what? That's actually the better answer. It is in the womb. I always say it's at childbirth, because Harvard Medical School did a study, Abraham Taubin, 90% of all births end in damage to the neck. But it's in the womb, because if the mother is stressed, the hard wiring that baby is developing is getting its cues from the mother. And it does it for a reason. God's not stupid. If a woman is literally born into a war zone, if you literally live in a war zone, that baby being developed has to be developed to be able to handle the environment it's coming into. Here's the problem. Very few people are born into a war zone. But the house is like a war zone. The job is like a war zone. The expressway is like a war zone. As the mother gets stressed, that baby's getting hardwired to come into a world that's stressed. And they did studies with the autism too. Because when you have all the corticosteroids going through your body, one of the things that the child doesn't have is eye contact early on. Because they're so stressed out.
Right.
They're so stressed because the mother was so stressed. Very stressed out. Now they won't make the eye contact, which is essential. And that leads to, falls, accidents, sporting injuries, bad foods, toxins, all cause the spine to go into stress and cause subluxations. But anybody know what the number one cause is? You said it before. The number one cause is stress itself. By far. By far. What does stress do to the body? Anybody ever hear of something called fight or flight response? You ever hear of fight or flight? For those of you who've never heard of fight or flight, it's a normal, I'm here to tell you, it's a normal response. And I've spoken in front of veteran groups who have post-traumatic stress. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I told them, it is normal response by the body when your life is being threatened. It's for survival, fear. There's two parts to the brain. There's a lot of parts to the brain, but we're going to make it simple. two parts. There's a lower, we're going to call it a lower brain and a higher brain. Your higher brain is responsible for things like love, community, gratitude, grace, these types of things. Life choices, the bigger picture in life, community, creativity, memory. The lower brain is responsible for survival. It's called your survival reptilian brain, primitive. If I put my hand on a hot stove, I pull it off. That connection doesn't have to go to the higher brain because there's no choice to make. If I had to make a choice, I'd be like, feels hot, what should I do? I could leave it or do it by the time my hand is gone, it's burnt. It's this, it's off. Lower brain response is all of your involuntary, automatic behaviors. Everything she was talking about. Why do we walk by? Why do you eat dinner? And I don't say you, I say all of us. Why would we eat dinner? Belly be out to here, past the refrigerator, and look for something to eat. I mean, right? It's an automatic behavior that we've learned. It's a strategy. All your panic attacks, everything, anxiety attacks, lower brain. Lower brain's responsible for fear, emotions associated with the lower brain. Fear, worry, doubt, non-belief, regret, jealousy. So lower brain. What do you think some of the emotions for a higher brain are? Gratitude, trust, love, acceptance, right? Oh yeah. Well, and the other thing that's associated. Now somebody gets stressed. Somebody's whatever. They're driving their car. They get stressed. What happens immediately? What are some of the things that happen when you're in fight or flight or stress response? Let's just say, did you ever have to speak in front of somebody? What if I called somebody up here and say, come up here and start speaking? What would happen to your body? What's one thing that would happen? What's one thing that would... Boom, boom, boom. Your heart rate goes up. What do you think your blood pressure does? Goes up. What do you think appetite does? You want to eat a meal at that point? No. You get butterflies in your stomach?
Yeah.
You get butterflies, you know why? Because all the blood is leaving your digestive tract and it's going to your arms and your legs. Why? To prepare you to either fight and save yourself. Remember, this is a primitive reflex. It was meant for survival. Right? So it's going to our arms. Like, you ever hear the 80-year-old grandmother who lifts the Volkswagen to save the baby underneath?
Yeah.
Where did she get that strength? Because nothing matters. Life is in jeopardy. She pulls. Everything is recruited for that moment. And it's normal when your life is being threatened. What are some other things? Reproductive organs aren't getting any attention. All these things. Your breathing changes. Your thyroid function changes. Your pupils change. Your eyesight changes. Very good. Saliva. You're a different person completely. And it's meant to save you. That's the first thing that happens. The second thing that happens, you ever see a cat being chased by a dog? You think the cat's in fight or flight? You betcha. But what does the cat do when he's cornered?
Lunges.
So when a cat is in a corner like this, right? If a cat's like this, does he want to eat?
No.
Does he want to pet? Does he want to mate?
No.
You know what's going on inside the cat's body, right?
Attack.
You know what's going on. It's ready to attack, and if there's kittens, it'll really, really kill it to the death. Yeah. Why is the cat like that? Because it's in fight or flight. But what does the cat do when the dog walks away? Anybody take yoga? It goes into the cat stretch. It goes like this. How do we look as we get older? We get like this? People say, yeah, but my life was never threatened, because it's not a life-threatening situation. It's an accumulation of life stresses. Now, I'm going to get to your question in a minute, because your question was, well, how do you take care of that? So 3 things happen when you get fight or flight, 3 major things. One, your physiology changes, meaning your blood pressure. And by the way, what are some of the problems people have as they get a little bit older? What are some of the things? High blood pressure is almost the norm. Tachycardia is when your heart rate just won't stop. Arteriosclerosis, the arteries, right? Everything is... You get digestive problems, Crohn's, you get reflux, GERD, right? Irritable bowel. All of these things happen. Infertility wasn't a problem in the 70s. How about panic attacks, anxiety attacks? Anybody here know anyone? If I guarantee you, everyone here knows someone or at least experienced a panic attack at least once. I'm sorry. It's rampant. I've been practicing since 1985, and I never even saw it back then. Panic attacks, because let me tell you this. Let's say I'm standing here, and let's say somebody's behind the wall there, pointing a gun at my head. Now, you guys don't know it, but I know it. Do you think my behavior might be different?
Yes.
You might go to make a movement, and I might jump and get scared, and you say, what's wrong with this guy? He's a nervous wreck. Well, I'm living like I have a gun pointed to my head. Let's say 25 years ago, somebody really did put a gun to my head. My heart rate goes, my posture goes like this. I'm not standing like this in gratitude, am I? Oh, I'm so thankful for this moment. I'm like this. I'm like, how am I going to get that gun? How am I going to get out of here? And the third thing that happens, all the blood and oxygen in the brain, where do you think it goes? To the higher brain or the lower brain? It goes to the lower brain because that's what's being used. If I work out and just do this arm all day, every day, it's going to be this big with all the oxygen and all the blood. So now, stress is causing postural shifts. Stress is causing changes in your body, your physiology, and it's also changing how your brain works. And now, your lower brain has got all the blood, and all of that's normal until they take the gun away from my head, and I don't reset. Now, why wouldn't I reset? The cat did. The cat doesn't have a job. The cat doesn't drive 40 miles a day to work. The cat's not married. The cat doesn't have kids. The cat doesn't have financial problems. The cat, right? We go on and on. The cat doesn't overeat. So the point is, accumulated stress, we're not recovering. Now I'm looking, I'm seeing the world through a filter of that event. Are you guys with me?
Yeah.
So now I'm living as if I have a gun pointed to my head. What's that called? Anxiety, stress. Anybody who has anxiety, they'll tell you, they go, oh my God, I could drive in Lindenhurst, the car goes into West Babylon, I get an attack. Is that logical? Makes no sense. They know it makes no sense. Because they don't have control over it because it's automatic, unconscious behavior from the lower brain. All your addictions are because we're locked into the lower brain. And volumes are being written right now on, you ever hear of Joseph Chilton Pierce? Joseph Chilton Pierce, he's written a lot of books, and I mean, he actually came out and said, he feels, as do many, many other authors feel, and there's a big leap I'm going to make now. The problems in the world, in general, are because people are living from a lower state of consciousness. And by lower state of consciousness, we mean they're living through their lower brain. And they don't have choice. Do you understand? The higher brain is all about choice. How does Robin Williams take his life? How does a suicide victim take their life? How's that happen? That's like, that goes against all your instincts, is to take your own life. You'll do anything to live. Anything, anything, anything. When someone makes the choice, that means what? They had no choice. That means what? And they've done studies, MRI dissections on brains of suicide victims where they found that prefrontal cortex, which is the big daddy of them all, shrunk on suicide victims.
Wow.
Related to Alzheimer's, related, name it. Why? Because he's living for God knows how many years from his lower brain because he's locked in stress. And I see it. I'm doing this so long, I could see how somebody's even walking, holding themselves, because the posture tells you what's going on inside that cat's head. You can't separate it. But it doesn't tell the whole picture. So Robin Williams had no choice. The veterans, I told them, I said, the problem wasn't your body went into stress. These people are trained, they're trained to go into fight or flight to protect their partner. And the cops too these days. Let me tell you, it's a tough job. They're going into fight or flight all the firemen too. They're going into fight or flight all the time. In and out, the body.
Stress because you don't.
You don't know. You don't
When you're
know.
a cop, you don't know who's going to kill you next.
That's right.
When on the job, I'm saying I'm a cop, but I'm just saying I know people who are cops, and it's 24/7.
It's all the time, and people get locked into that, and then it starts ripping them apart because now you have all these subluxations, and they're not even expressing life. So let me ask you this. What part of the body, this is the test. If you get the test wrong, we have to start over again. Everyone knows I've done it. The test is this. What part of your body do you think you need to get checked, maintained, corrected if it needs correction for a lifetime? What part of the body? Spine. Thank God. I wasn't in the mood. The spine, let's get checked. Now, who needs to get checked?
Right.
When do you need to get checked?
Out of the womb.
I knew you were going to say it. And you know what? I always say the minute you're born, but it's when you're in the womb. It changes everything. Everything. I have kids. My two girls have a 4-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. And these girls have never been to a doctor, never taken drugs. They've been sick, but they work through it. You let them work through it. You feed them right, nursed for like almost 2 years. Never been to a doctor. So now people tell me, well, maybe you got lucky. Maybe because you speak about this stuff. Maybe, you know, and I do know God. It's God's grace anyway. I mean, I don't want to be. I stay, you know, humbly. Believe me, because that's a big part of it. But I say, well, what about my 25-year-old who's never been to a doctor and never taken a drug? You know, it's not all luck. You know, it's really what we do. It's the actions we take, right? You know, it's all permissible. Would you say permissible? But what's the benefit? So now, yeah. And so let me just, so this is what it's about here. This is a scan. See, modern technology makes it easy to tell us the state. It's called your sympathetic nervous system when you're talking about the fight or flight. Modern technology makes it easy to determine the state of your nervous system, if there's damage or blockage. Now, when you look up here, right, you see this is a scan. See, there's no colors. It's all white. All white means that the nerves are functioning 100%, there's no blockage. That's what that means. Who wants to have a scan like that? Oh yeah, absolutely. The bottom here, now you see red, so you have green means mild blockage, blue is moderate blockage, red is severe blockage. Black is just, there's nothing going through. It's off the charts. And this was a girl, this is a 3-year-old girl, Sarah.
3 years old.
And she had antibiotics for ear infection. Now, what the doctor didn't tell her was that the body makes its own antibiotics, and it's called antibodies. That's what it's called.
That's right.
But they didn't tell her that. And took the antibiotics, and then 3 months after that, had to take them again. And then 3 rounds of it, 3 months after that, again. And this little girl started getting septic. It wasn't working. She developed asthma, allergies, and couldn't sleep. And the mother had bags under her eyes. It was a mess. I said, you have to get checked too. I mean, you need to get your spine checked. Because let me ask you, how would you know? There's no way to know for sure. I said I could see people how they're holding themselves, but there's no real way. You have to get your spine checked. It's the only way to tell. And look, this is from these nerves here, go to your ears. And these nerves here, go to the lungs. 4 months later, that was the afterscan. So,
How did she find you?
this was in an office. This was my friend's. This was a friend of mine. And she just, because it's word of mouth. See, here's the thing. People, I don't know people you know. See, so we have to, who here learned something? Right? You learn something new, different?
Yes.
I'm never going to meet people that you know.
Word of
we
mouth.
have word of mouth. So the first thing is, the first piece of this is this. People need to get checked because nerve damage, we have to find the cause of it. It doesn't get better, it gets worse. It keeps getting worse. And I have to tell you the truth. Me and my sister's been with me over 20 years. I mean, 29 years. We've seen people, every 10 years they come in, and with that MRI, and it's worse every time. And it's not only their spine. You could just see their behavior, their mind. When you don't see somebody for 10 years, you could really see there's a difference. It doesn't get better. We have to get to the cause of things before it turns into crisis. And then what happens is, the other thing is, you know, our health people depend on our health because it affects everybody around us. Whether we have good health, it affects people, or whether we have bad health, it affects us. I've seen it in my family. It's not fair. It's really not. I mean, we actually, you know, we have an obligation, that's the word, to take care of ourselves that way. And the thing is, what we want to do is we're going to check everybody's spine. That's what we're going to do. There's going to be no charge. And if something's at the point where we see there's something more going on, we can't help you, we tell you. And there's nothing to lose because there is no charge for this. So that's why I have Erin and Teresa here. Take the time. Come in. It's worth a couple $100. It's going to be 20 minutes of your time. And there's going to be no charge at all. In fact, I was thinking about this. We could make optional $20, and that would be for you and for your whole family. And then we'll give it right back to the ministry. So whatever we raise that way, we'll just give right back. So, but that's optional for you guys, you know. And that's for you and your family, because who needs to be checked? Everybody needs to be checked. So don't be shy. Go up there. In fact, what's your name? Susan. You're Susan? Can you stand up a minute? Susan, I want you to be my leader and the guide for your table.
Okay.
And they can go right back there and just circle. If you look on the back of your sheet, there's times. Because what I did was, we see a lot of people in our office. We cleared this week and next week so people can come in. We're going to stay late, and we're going to make sure everyone gets checked.
Where are you?
In Lindenhurst, and there's a map. When you go up there, we have a map, and we have everything that you're going to need. But you can just go right in there. Well, let me just ask you, who here now knows that they have a health problem? Right? I mean, raise your hand if you have a health problem, because it's common. I want everybody to see how common it is. How common taking drugs, it really is. It's everywhere. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get everyone checked. Let me help you.
I
Yes.
just want to share one thing. I thank you so much for having this ability to speak what my heart, mind, and spirit wants to share. Because I'm not a doctor, but I have this wisdom that the Lord has given me because of lack of knowledge that I was seeking out when my children were diagnosed with autism, that He led me down this path. And what you said was so profound, because nobody realizes that God is such a God of detail, that He made every antibody in your body for every little virus and bacteria to help heal it without going to medication first. I'm not saying medication is bad. What I'm saying is we should first try to find the cause of what is going on in our bodies and allow the body to heal, like you said, your daughter, to go through the motions, because then that's the way we build up our immune system.
Absolutely.
And then, if that doesn't work, we consult, and then, because I always said, how come nobody checks the brain? I always ask that. We go for MRIs, we go for x-rays, we go
That's a great point.
Nobody says,
See-
let's check the brain.
See, look,
Yeah.
I was taught in school that this is subluxation, and we need to do this. Push it back. Now this person goes into their life. Has anything changed?
No.
Has their behavior changed? Nothing's
No.
changed. As soon as they go into their life, what's going to happen?
You leave the
Then they
office,
go back to the office and they get it again. And it's a dance. I want to do something really quick with you guys. Just put your hands on your chest. Really simple. And what's going to happen is I'm going to ask you to breathe in your nose, out your mouth. And as you're breathing in your nose, I just want you to lift the part of your chest your hands are touching. So it looks like this. And go as hard as you can, and then breathe out your mouth and sink it down. So do it now. Everybody take a breath, breathe in your nose. Now when you can't lift it anymore, lift it a little more. A little more, a little more, a little more. Lift it, lift it. Go that last little bit out your mouth. Now watch this. If we're standing here, and if there's a big, big noise outside, might we not get scared and go, right? Might we not get like this? What part of the brain just engaged? Lower brain, right? Now what if we didn't recover from that and we're walking around like this now? This is the type of thing we do in our office. Now this person puts their hand on their chest and does what?
Breathe.
lifts it, but it's not me breathing, it's you doing it. And then I said, go a little more. Who found that when I said go a little more, they went a little more? Just a little more, right? What part of the brain do you think you had to use to go from this to this? The higher brain. It's called neuroplasticity. And what you did was, with that one breath, you just made another connection. And they said in the thing, she said, it has to be a practice. It has to be, you have to practice being with God. Look, you can look at it as heaven and hell. The upper and the lower. Heaven and hell, because the higher brain is all of God.
Mind renewal and
And you have to practice that. And we tell people, you need to practice. You need to put your hands on your body. When someone's on my table, we don't practice. It's all low force because everything we do is cueing the higher brain. No one's doing this. No one's doing it. Everybody's just going clunk. That's why we see chiropractors, we see, we see celebrities, we see everybody. Because that's what they're looking for. And then we give you the tool to come in and help your body reset. It's all about rebooting and resetting. Look, we were all born, none of us are the same. No two people are alike. Because if we were, then some of us wouldn't be necessary, right? So some of us, everybody's different. And you have to think of your spinal cord. Think of it, it's like a string. So take a guitar string, depending on the length and thickness, it plays a certain note, doesn't it? Same thing with your spinal cord. We were meant to play a note. Everybody here has gifts and treasures. I heard recently that Africa is the richest continent with natural resources, but they're the poorest country. You know why? Because the resources are in the ground. We all have amazing resources. Depending on the string of that guitar, it'll play a certain note. If you push your finger in the middle, it changes the note. Well, if your spinal cord is like this, you can't possibly sing the song you were meant to sing. Oh yeah, I walked in here and I gave a talk and I'm like this. Okay, everybody, listen to me. I have all the answers. I'm happy and I'm optimistic. You have to laugh. Get the tables moving. Come on, everybody.
I have a quick